one loses someone who begs. People lose those who walk away in silence. You think chasing is love, but it is not. It is the fear of being alone. It is the fear of not being chosen. It is the fear of accepting that it is over. Every time you chase, you do not draw closer. You diminish yourself. And today you will understand why stopping the chase restores your worth, and why Stoicism has always treated this as a non-negotiable principle. And at the end of this video, you will discover something that will surprise you. What truly happens in the other person's mind when you stop chasing. And it is not what you imagine. Master your mind, or be mastered by it. And if you want this message to reach more people who need to hear it, leave a like now. Each like spreads dignity in a world of dependency. And if you are not yet subscribed, subscribe. Because here we do not sell illusions. We build freedom. This is not love. It is fear. And fear has memory. You learned early that you had to chase for validation, that love was something you earned through effort, that you were only loved when you pleased. And today you repeat the pattern without realizing it. Automatically, unconsciously. And this fear triggers something in your brain. When you sense someone pulling away, your emotional center sounds the alarm, and your rational part weakens. You act on impulse. You act in desperation. You chase. Now let us address the first truth. And this truth will change how you view chasing forever. First truth: why chasing destroys your worth. Chasing does not prove love. It proves emotional dependency. It proves that you lack self-respect. It proves that you are willing to diminish yourself. And when you diminish yourself, you lose worth. Not in the eyes of others, in your own eyes. Because worth does not come from outside. Worth comes from within. Worth comes from how you treat yourself, from how you respect yourself, from how you protect yourself. And when you chase someone who does not choose you, you are telling yourself something devastating. You are telling yourself that you are not enough, that you must beg to be loved, that you do not deserve to be chosen naturally. And this destroys your self-esteem. This destroys your identity. This destroys who you are. And here is the power dynamic. In any relationship, whoever needs less holds more power. Not because they manipulate, but because they are free. Whoever does not need the other's attention can be authentic, can be genuine, can walk away if not respected. But whoever needs, whoever depends, whoever begs, loses all autonomy, loses all freedom, loses all power, and becomes a hostage. And here is what the Stoics understood. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the world at that time, wrote something that changes everything. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. When someone rejects you, when someone does not choose you, it is not a judgment of your worth. It is merely that person's limited perspective. It is merely their opinion, not fact, not absolute truth. Marcus Aurelius knew that the opinion of others does not define reality. He was constantly attacked, betrayed by allies, criticized by enemies. But he never allowed the perspective of others to define who he was, because he knew that the only judgment that matters is your own. And Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in Rome, taught something brutal. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. Seneca possessed gold, lands, power. But he knew that wealth is not what you have. It is what you do not need. And when you need someone's attention, when you beg for scraps of love, you are emotionally impoverished. No matter what you possess, you are like a beggar pleading for attention before a palace gate. No matter how much you beg, no matter how much you insist, the gate does not open for those on their knees. The gate opens for those standing upright, for those with dignity, for those with self-respect. And here is the truth no one told you. Whoever chases is always reacting. Whoever reacts loses power, because reaction is not choice. Reaction is impulse, it is desperation, it is fear. And whoever acts in fear never acts with clarity, never acts with strength, never acts with dignity. Worth is not requested. Worth is maintained. You do not convince anyone of your worth by begging. You demonstrate your worth by respecting yourself, by protecting yourself, by valuing yourself. And if you are recognizing this pattern now, if you are tired of losing your worth, leave a comment writing, "Enough. Now I will live my life." Writing is not for me. It is for you. It is you assuming the decision to stop. Second truth, and this is where most people are completely mistaken. The illusion that if I persist, the person will return. You believe a lie. You believe that if you persist enough, if you prove enough, if you chase enough, the person will see your worth. The person will choose you. The person will return. But they will not. Because insistence does not create desire. Insistence creates silent repulsion. And here is the psychology of behavior. There is a principle called scarcity versus perceived abundance. When something is scarce, when something is difficult to obtain, perceived value increases. But when something is abundant, when something is always available, perceived value plummets. You are too abundant. You are always available, always responding, always initiating contact, always chasing. And the more you do this, the more the person sees you as guaranteed, as predictable, as worthless. Because the human brain does not value what is always available. The human brain values what it might lose. And when you beg, when you pursue, you do not become something to be won. You become something to be discarded. And here is the boomerang effect. The more you pursue, the more the person withdraws. Because pursuit generates pressure, and pressure generates resistance. No one enjoys feeling pressured. No one enjoys feeling that someone is desperate. Because desperation is not attractive. Desperation is repulsive. You are like someone trying to hold water in their hands. The tighter you squeeze, the more it escapes. The more you insist, the more the person withdraws. The more you pursue, the more you lose. And here is what Epictetus taught. Epictetus was a slave. He was tortured. His leg was broken by his own master. And yet he became one of the freest philosophers who ever lived. Because he understood something profound. Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happen the way it happens, then you will be happy. Epictetus taught this to his students when they suffered rejection, when they lost someone, when they were abandoned. He said, you do not control whether someone loves you. You do not control whether someone chooses you. You do not control whether someone stays. But you control whether you accept reality. And when you accept reality, when you stop fighting against it, when you stop insisting on the impossible, you find peace. You find freedom. You find dignity. And Seneca complemented with something brutal. No one can hurt you without your consent. When someone rejects you, when someone does not choose you, the pain only exists if you accept it as a wound. If you accept it as an insult. If you accept it as a judgment of your worth. But if you understand that the person simply made a choice, that it is not about you, that it is about them, there is no wound, only reality. Seneca applied this when he was politically attacked, when he was publicly insulted, when he was betrayed by allies. He was never wounded, because he never consented. He simply observed and moved forward. And here is the brutal truth. No one respects those who do not respect themselves. When you beg, when you insist, when you pursue, you are demonstrating that you do not respect yourself, that you do not value yourself, that you are willing to accept anything. And when you demonstrate this, the other person internalizes it and treats you accordingly, with disrespect, with disregard, with indifference. Third truth. And this reveals the error you did not even know you were committing. The emotional error almost everyone makes. You confuse attachment with loyalty, and this confusion is destroying you. Because loyalty is virtue, but attachment is imprisonment. Loyalty is staying when there is reciprocity, when there is respect, when there is mutual choice, when there is genuine love. Loyalty is honoring commitments. It is keeping your word. It is being present. But loyalty requires reciprocity. You do not owe loyalty to those who do not respect you. You do not owe loyalty to those who despise you. You do not owe loyalty to those who abandon you. Attachment is different. Attachment is staying when there is no reciprocity. when there is contempt, when there is abuse, when there is emotional abandonment. Attachment is clinging to someone not out of love but out of fear. Fear of loss, fear of being alone, fear of starting over. And you stay, not because you want to, but because you are afraid to leave. And this is not loyalty. This is self-destruction. And here is the psychological difference. Secure attachment is when you feel comfortable with both closeness and distance. You love, but do not depend. You stay, but can leave. You care, but do not lose yourself. But anxious attachment is when you need constant proximity, when you panic at distance, when you lose yourself completely in the other person, and you become trapped, because you cannot imagine your life without this person. Not because they are essential, but because you do not see yourself as complete alone. And here is what the Stoics taught. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, said something revolutionary. The wise person is self-sufficient, not because they wish to be alone, but because they are able to be. Zeno taught emotional self-sufficiency. He said that true strength is not needing no one. It is being able to be alone without crumbling. It is having relationships by choice, not necessity. It is loving without losing yourself. And when you are emotionally self-sufficient, when you can be alone, you have freedom. Freedom to choose who remains in your life. Freedom to walk away when not respected. Freedom not to beg. And Seneca complimented, "It is slavery to live in necessity, but to live in necessity is not necessary." Seneca was exiled twice. He lost everything: wealth, power, position, status. But he maintained dignity, because he did not need anything external to be who he was. He did not need validation. He did not need approval. He did not need anyone, not because he was cold, but because he was complete. And when you are complete, you do not cling to those who abandon you. You simply walk away. And here is the truth that will liberate you. To remain where you are not chosen is to abandon yourself. When you stay in a place where you are not respected, where you are not valued, where you are not chosen, you are not being loyal. You are betraying yourself. You are abandoning yourself. You are telling yourself that you do not deserve better. And this is the greatest error you can commit. You are like someone clinging to an anchor thinking it is a safe harbor. But an anchor does not protect you. An anchor sinks you. And the more you cling, the deeper you sink. And if you are seeing this error now, if you are recognizing that you confused attachment with loyalty, leave a comment writing, "Enough. Now I will live my life." Because acknowledging is the first step to liberation. Fourth truth, and this is the most powerful of all, the Stoic strategy of silence. Silence is not a game. It is not manipulation. It is not revenge. Silence is internal closure. It is you saying without words that it is over, that you will no longer beg, that you will no longer pursue, that you will no longer accept scraps. And silence is the most powerful weapon you possess, because silence cuts the emotional cycle. When you stop speaking, when you stop explaining, when you stop justifying, when you stop reacting, you cut the cycle of pursuit, the cycle of rejection, the cycle of pain. You simply exit. And when you exit, you reclaim power, because power is not in who shouts loudest. Power is in whoever controls their own reaction. And silence is total control. And here is what Epictetus taught. Epictetus said something that changed the lives of millions. If someone has entrusted something to you, return it. If not, go your way. Epictetus taught that you should not pursue what is not yours. If someone did not choose you, they are not yours. If someone does not value you, they are not yours. If someone does not respect you, they are not yours. And you should not remain where you do not belong. You should not beg for a place that was not offered. You simply return it and move forward. Without drama, without explanation, without revenge. Simply move forward. And Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, practiced this daily. Marcus Aurelius was constantly betrayed by allies, by generals, by people he trusted. And he had the power to destroy these people, to take revenge, to retaliate, but he never did. He simply withdrew, in silence, and he wrote in his meditations, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Marcus Aurelius understood that when you retaliate with betrayal, with attack, with pursuit, you become like those who hurt you. You descend to the same level. But when you respond with dignity, with silence, with withdrawal, you rise. You demonstrate who you truly are. And this made him immortal, whilst his betrayers died in obscurity. And Seneca taught something even more brutal. The greatest remedy for anger is delay. Seneca was publicly attacked multiple times, insulted, humiliated, slandered, and he never responded, never defended himself, never attacked back. He simply ignored. He simply dismissed, and his enemies died in irrelevance, because Seneca understood something profound. When you respond, when you react, you grant importance, you grant attention, you grant power. But when you dismiss, when you ignore, when you move forward in silence, you remove all power. You demonstrate that it does not deserve your energy. And this destroys more than any attack. And here's what happens in your brain. When you stop pursuing, when you enter silence, you deactivate the chase mode. You stop living in constant tension. You stop activating the internal alarm of rejection. And you activate your rational part. You regain clarity. You regain control. You regain peace. And psychology validates this. Silence is self-preservation. Silence is dignity. Silence is you protecting your energy, your peace, your mental health. And here's the truth. You are like a river that does not fight against the stone in its path. The river does not argue, does not insist, does not try to push the stone. It simply flows around and continues. And with time, the stone erodes on its own. But the river continues flowing, always. Whoever speaks less, feels less. Whoever feels less, decides better. The more you speak, the more you lose yourself in emotion. The more you explain, the more you justify. The more you react, the more you lose control. But when you fall silent, when you observe, when you simply move forward, you maintain total control, and control is freedom. Fifth truth. And this gives you the exact map of when to stop, the exact moment to stop. You stop when you realize you are negotiating your dignity. And here are the signs, the clear signs, the undeniable signs. First sign, you always initiate contact. Always. You send the first message, you make the first call, you ask how the person is. And the person never asks about you, never initiates, never seeks. You are making all the effort. And when the effort is unilateral, it is not a relationship. It is pursuit. Second sign, you accept scraps of attention. The person responds to you with monosyllables, with coldness, with delay, and you are grateful. You celebrate. You settle. Because anything seems better than nothing. But it is not. A scrap is not love. A scrap is disrespect disguised as attention. Third sign, you over-explain. You justify your actions. You explain your feelings. You apologize for existing, and the person never explains anything, never justifies, never apologizes. Because whoever holds power does not explain. Whoever does not begs for understanding. Fourth sign, you wait hours for a response. Days. You feel anxious. You keep checking your phone. You wait. And when the person responds, you respond immediately, as if you were waiting. And you were. You are living as a function of someone else's attention, and this is imprisonment. Fifth sign, you justify the person's absence. They are busy. They are tired. They are stressed. You create excuses. You create narratives. You convince yourself, because accepting the truth is too painful. And the truth is, if the person wanted to, they would be present. Sixth sign, you always return when called. No matter how much time has passed, no matter how you were treated, When the person calls, you go, like an obedient dog. And this is not love. It is conditioning. Seventh sign. You apologize for things you did not do. You assume guilt that is not yours. You diminish yourself. You make yourself small, just to keep the person close. And when you do this, when you recognize these signs in your life, you know you are begging. You know you are on your knees emotionally. You know you are negotiating your dignity. And here is what Seneca taught. No one can hurt you without your consent. And when you continue chasing, when you continue accepting these signs, you are consenting to your own humiliation. You are permitting it. You are choosing it. And the choice is yours. And Epictetus complimented. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Epictetus taught that you must define your identity first. If you want to be dignified, stop acting without dignity. If you want to be respected, stop accepting disrespect. If you want to be valued, stop begging for value. Define who you are, and act accordingly. And here is the truth you must accept. You know you are begging when you feel you are on your knees emotionally, when you must look up to see someone who should be standing beside you, when you feel small, when you feel invisible, when you feel worthless, you know. And when you realize you are begging, the limit has already been crossed. The boundary was crossed long ago, and now you choose. Continue, or stop. Sixth truth. And this shows what happens when you finally stop. What happens when you stop chasing? Here the game changes. Internally. First, your mind decelerates. When you stop pursuing, when you exit chase mode, your brain exits the state of constant tension. You stop living in anxiety. You stop living checking your phone. You stop living waiting for a response. You stop living as a function of someone else, and you begin living as a function of yourself. And this changes everything. Second, your identity reorganizes. When you were chasing, you defined yourself by someone else's attention. You were someone when chosen. You had worth when loved. You existed when seen. But when you stop, when you withdraw, you remember. You remember who you are. Without anyone. You remember that you do not need validation. You remember that you are complete. You remember that you have worth, and always have. Third, your worth ceases to depend on external response. When you were begging, your worth rose and fell with the other person's attention. When the person responded, you felt well. When the person ignored you, you felt terrible. You were a hostage. But when you stop, when you disconnect, your worth stabilizes, because it no longer depends on outside forces. It comes from within. And this is freedom. Fourth, you regain mental clarity. When you were pursuing, your mind was clouded, full of obsessive thoughts, full of doubts, full of anxiety. But when you stop, the fog dissipates. You see with clarity. You see the situation as it is, not as you wished it to be. And clarity is power. Fifth, you regain dignity. When you were on your knees, you lost dignity. You diminished yourself. You humiliated yourself. But when you stand up, when you walk away, you recover it. You recover self-respect. You recover self-worth. You recover who you are. Sixth, you regain peace. When you were chasing, you had no peace. You had anxiety. You had pain. You had emptiness. But when you stop, peace returns. Not because you forgot, but because you chose. You chose dignity. You chose freedom. You chose yourself. And here is what happens internally. When you stop pursuing, you redefine emotional patterns. You break the cycle. You create a new path. And with time, your brain learns. It learns that you do not need to chase. It learns that you have worth without validation. It learns that you are sufficient. And psychology validates this. Recovery of self-esteem, recovery of emotional autonomy, recovery of identity. Everything returns when you choose yourself. And here is what Marcus Aurelius taught. You always own the option of having no opinion. Marcus Aurelius governed a collapsing empire. War, plague, betrayal, chaos. But he maintained control over his mind, and this kept him free. Because freedom is not the absence of external imprisonment. It is control over your internal mind. And when you control your mind, when you control your thoughts, when you choose where to place your attention, you are free, even if the world around you is chaos. And Seneca complimented, "The greatest empire is command over oneself." Seneca was advisor to Emperor Nero. He watched Nero lose control of himself. He watched Nero become a tyrant. He watched Nero destroy everything. And Seneca understood, whoever does not govern themselves governs nothing. Whoever does not control themselves is controlled by everything. But whoever governs themselves, whoever controls themselves, whoever masters themselves, has everything, because they have themselves. And Epictetus concluded with something liberating. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. When you stop needing someone's attention, when you stop needing validation, when you stop needing approval, you become wealthy, emotionally wealthy, because you have everything, because you need nothing. And here is the final truth. You are like someone removing a backpack full of stones from their shoulders. For so long you carried the weight of chasing, the weight of begging, the weight of not being chosen. And it was heavy, so heavy that you forgot what it is like to walk lightly. But when you stop, when you release, when you let go, suddenly, you can breathe again, walk again, live again. You do not lose anyone when you stop chasing. You recover yourself. And if you are feeling that these truths are making sense, that you are seeing the map, that you are ready to stop, leave a comment writing, "Enough. Now I will live my life." Because acknowledging is liberation. And now, what I promised at the beginning, what truly happens in the other person's mind when you stop chasing. And this will surprise you. When you stop, when you disappear, when you walk away in silence, something changes in the other person's mind. First, you become scarce. Remember the psychology I mentioned? Scarcity versus perceived abundance. When you were always available, always chasing, always present, you were abundant. And the brain does not value the abundant. But when you disappear, when you are no longer available, you become scarce. And scarcity generates attention. And here is what happens internally in that person. Their brain misses the reward pattern. When you were always there, always responding, always seeking, their brain received validation whenever it wanted. It was predictable, guaranteed, effortless. But when you stop, when you cut contact, the pattern is broken, and their brain begins to search for it again. It wants the validation back, it wants the attention back, and the person begins to think about you. Second, bewilderment. When you break the pattern, when you act differently, the brain notices, because the human brain operates on patterns. And when a pattern is broken, attention is activated. The person is bewildered. Why are you no longer chasing? Why are you no longer responding? Why did you change? And bewilderment generates curiosity. Third, reevaluation. When you were always available, the person saw you as guaranteed, as something they could take or leave, as something without value. But when you disappear, when you are no longer there, the person begins to reevaluate. Was I wrong? Did I lose something? Should I have valued more? And the person begins to think of you differently. Fourth, some people return. And here is what you must understand. Why do some people return when you stop chasing? Not because they recognized your worth, not because they regretted, not because they love you, but because they realized they lost control, because they realized you are no longer available, because they want to recover the power. And if you return, if you accept, if you fall again, you have lost everything. Because nothing has changed. The person has not changed. They only want back what they had. And what they had was you chasing. So they will do enough to bring you back. And then they will return to ignoring you. And the cycle continues. And here is what you never must do. You never must use this as a manipulation strategy. You do not stop chasing to make the person return. You stop chasing to recover yourself, to recover dignity, to recover peace. And if the person returns, you do not celebrate. You evaluate. With clarity, with rationality, with dignity. Did they return because they changed, or because they lost control? Did they return with respect, or with manipulation? Did they return to stay, or to use you again? And most of the time the answer is clear, and you choose dignity or cycle. And here is what Seneca taught. The greatest remedy for anger is delay. When you dismiss someone through silence, when you disappear, when you move forward with your life, you are not being cruel. You are being sovereign. You are demonstrating that it no longer has power over you. And this is freedom. And Marcus Aurelius concluded with something profound. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius taught that when you are rejected, when you are not chosen, it is not an obstacle. It is redirection. It is the universe guiding you to where you should go. Because if you had been chosen, you would be trapped. You would be in a place that does not value you. But because you were not chosen, you are free. Free to go. Free to find those who choose you naturally. Free to live. And here is the final truth about what happens in the other person's mind. If someone only values you when you disappear, that person did not love you. They used you. Because genuine worth does not need absence to be recognized. Genuine worth is seen, is respected, is chosen from the beginning. And you are like the sun. The sun does not chase the moon to be seen. The sun does not beg for attention. The sun simply shines, and whoever wants light comes to it. You do not need to chase anyone. You need to shine, and whoever deserves you will come. And now, the practical protocol. What to do now, today, immediately. 3 rules, 7 days, 1 test. Rule 1, 7 days without initiating contact. Discipline test. Do not send a message. Do not call. Do not appear. Do not seek. For 7 complete days. This is not a game. It is a test of self-control. It is you proving to yourself that you do not need to, that you can, that you have strength. 7 days. Without exception. Rule 2, if the person returns with scraps, do not respond. Dignity test. If the person sends you a cold message, if they send you just hi, if they send you an emoji, if they send you anything without effort, without respect, without genuine change, you do not respond. Because responding is returning to the cycle. It is accepting scraps again. It is diminishing yourself again. And you do not do that anymore. You have dignity now, and dignity does not negotiate. Rule 3. If the person returns with genuine change, demand action, not words. Truth test. If the person returns differently, if they come with respect, if they come with effort, if they come with change, you do not accept words. You demand action. You demand proof. You demand consistency. Because words are easy. Words are cheap. Words change nothing. But action demonstrates truth. Action demonstrates commitment. Action demonstrates genuine change, and you accept nothing less than that. And Epictetus concluded the protocol with something simple and powerful. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Epictetus applied this daily as a slave. He did not control his physical freedom, did not control whether he would be tortured, did not control whether he would be humiliated, but he controlled his response. And this made him free, freer than his masters. Because freedom is not the absence of imprisonment, it is control over your response. And if this video made sense, if you are committed to stopping, if you choose your dignity, write in the comments, enough. Now I will live my life. This is not for me. It is for you to acknowledge publicly the decision to stop diminishing yourself. It is a pact with yourself. It is you telling the universe and yourself that you choose dignity. You do not lose anyone when you stop chasing. You recover yourself. You liberate yourself. You rediscover yourself. Dignity is non-negotiable. Silence is power. And you always had this power. You simply forgot. but now you remember. And if you are not yet subscribed, subscribe. Because here we build dignity, day after day, video after video. And share this video with someone who needs to hear this. Someone who is chasing. Someone who is begging. Someone who is on their knees. Someone who needs to remember their own worth. Because this message can change a life. And Marcus Aurelius concluded his meditations with the phrase that summarizes everything. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You do not control whether someone chooses you. You do not control whether someone loves you. You do not control whether someone stays. But you control whether you respect yourself, whether you value yourself, whether you choose yourself. And when you choose yourself, when you respect yourself, when you value yourself, you are free. Free from chasing, free from begging, free from diminishing yourself. And this freedom is the greatest gift you can give yourself. And do not forget, this is the Stoic equilibrium. Reason as a way of life, virtue as strength, and discipline as the path. See you in the next video.